Hola community, welcome to another episode of Blender.Today Live, this weekly meeting, although we skip 1 week for good reasons, that we do here from the Blender studio in Amsterdam. We had a release. Last week we skipped the show because we had to focus on preparing the page, all the PR, the videos, the demo files, the everything really. So, have you downloaded yet? Have you tried it yet? Does it work for you? Please tell me it works. We're gonna talk about it in a bit. There is so many new things this week. There is Grease Pencil, geometry nodes, nodes in general. Even search has been improved. Performance UB, as in you probably read in the title of this video. Then UI, sequencer, and the Potpourri section, which has all over the place. So, how is everybody doing here? I'm checking out the chat is okay, sound okay, video okay. Okay, let's jump into the first announcement that I have, not related to Blender itself, but community. So, World Blender Meetup Day is this independent event that the community organizes every year, already for many years. The event goes, you probably heard already, it's 24 hours all over the globe, just Blender stuff. It's like if you had a Blender channel, a TV where you just, like a cable, and you just said, okay, Blender. Wouldn't that be great though? I think there was an idea going on many years ago about having like a Blender TV, something like that, where you just random videos from YouTube tagged as such. Well, there is something like that, but even cooler because they're all presentations live from all over the world. From where? Well, first, when? March 19, now, in a few days. When is it at? It's on Saturday. And then, okay, where? Go to schedule. And all the links are in the description, by the way. But yeah, there is everywhere from, well, of course, it starts in Australia, right? Like Melbourne, Sydney, Brisbane, Adelaide, then Kuala Lumpur, Hong Kong, Perth, Mumbai, London, Istanbul, Prague, Amsterdam. Well, no, this is the Open Movie Marathon, but Abuja, that's Nigeria, even Orlando, Seattle, Adelaide, Amsterdam. We're gonna have Thomas Dinges there. So Mexico, everyone. Where is South America? There is no South America, is there? Vancouver, Utrecht, Mexico. No. Hey, South Americans, get your ish, and let's become part of this. I think they're still receiving some entries, so if you want to give a presentation, is your moment, although it has to be in English. Although if you're watching this, you probably understand English. Okay, that is with the World Blender Meetup Day. Join in the if you want to present, also there is a link in the description of this video, or just go to worldblendermeetupday.org. Next, we had a release. I already mentioned 3.1, focus on performance, make anything but faster. Well, the topic of the theme of the release was just performance, just the Blender is just faster. But there's also new features. There even graphics that which got updated. Actually, they were more like when the page went live. Actually, the graphics that the numbers that I had here were a bit less impressive. Now this is real because the update is just crazy. This GPU, how many samples per minute? So how many samples can cycles finish in 1 minute? So it's just crazy. Just crazy. These graphics by Mario, there's so much cycles. Well, you've probably seen it already. This hasn't been updated. Actually, everything should be still there. This one, copy global transform, this was added like 2 hours after, or 1 hour after the release, and there are already videos on YouTube by some popular Blender YouTubers that made the video before this page. I noticed that they were going through the page and they didn't see this section, which is really important for animators. It's a new add-on, although I was talking with the developers, with Sebran, and he wants to move it into Blender Core, so it will be in Core eventually. But at the moment, it's an add-on that you enable. It comes with Blender, and it's copy global transforms, so it's super handy. It just basically copies the global transforms, so like world transforms of whatever you have selected. So if you want to match, for example, an IK bound controller into another object, an empty or some other object in the scene, this comes in pretty handy. So this wasn't mentioned in some of the videos that I saw, and something else that wasn't mentioned in some of the videos that I saw by the community was most people finished here. Like, there is a benchmark. There is an open data Blender benchmark. You can download and try how those cycles run on your computer. This is at the moment only for cycles, but people always ask, like, what CPU should I buy? What GPU should I buy? Well, this is your answer, basically. Here you get the fastest CPU money can buy, for consumers at least, unless there is some kind of supercomputer in Switzerland somewhere. Is of course the AMD EPIC, Ryzen, Threadripper, and then you get some dual int. Like, it's just crazy. And then a 3090 is top of the line, although the 3080 Ti is very close. There is no one with a 3090 Ti like unreleased yet there, but yeah, it's Nvidia is crashing it here, and the AMD on the CPU. So you can even see more if you want to compare. And here you're gonna get the median score, which is the samples per minute. So if you render for example, this is for all the scenes. There's 3 scenes: the classroom, the monster, and the junk shop, the splash screen of 282, I think. All those samples combined, although the samples per minute combined is the score that you get here, but it's much more readable. It used to be, it used to say like just some number like render time, but that can be a bit weird to read, right? So this is much more readable. So yeah, super cool. So people didn't mention this, some videos, and also they didn't mention this part, that you can get the artwork. There are videos on YouTube asking how, or comments on YouTube asking about the artwork. You can download it. It's here. It's CC by SA, so it's Creative Commons by Lorenzo Aiello or Encloud, and you have to, if you do anything with it, and you have to share it in the same license, so you have to provide the blend file, and it keeps the same license. Of course, the attribution is always by Oren Cloud. And last but not least is the list of credits. Okay, and the Blender is free forever, but mainly the credits, and to thank mainly people that have contributed this amazing artwork. So alright, that is all. 3.1 it's there, and I'm pretty happy to announce that the add-on, remember that there were some add-ons that maybe wouldn't make it into 3.1. They did. They made it. All the add-ons now have their documentation properly in the proper place, which is Blender.org. So that's amazing. Then another thing that also is interesting is that the tissue add-on got updated. Actually, it was outdated in the version that was in master. It was outdated with GitHub. So I think now it went from 325 to 352. So quite a big update over there. So yay for that. And 3.1 just came out. However, there could be some bugs that are found after 3.1, after the official release, that if they're considered like high priority or really bad ones, there might be a 3.1.1. It still hasn't been decided as far as I know, because so far it's some Python stuff, some there is one crash on normal using grease pencil normalized thickness with curves. So far it's not too bad, but if this list grows and it gets out of control, then there might be a 3.1.1 release eventually. There's no plans as far as I know right now. If Thomas or some other developer is in the chat, please drop by, let me know. Okay, that is all with 3.1. Let's look at the future, 3.2. Okay, let me drink. Actually, I was gonna start the show today mentioning that I wasn't feeling really good. Actually, it's been all day a bit down, something with the stomach. But I started doing it, the live stream, and it actually got me pumped up. So hopefully I'm gonna keep this energy throughout the show because I didn't get much sleep. Maybe on the Spanish live stream that I do right after, I'm gonna be all sleepy. But let's keep the energy flowing with what? Speed, performance. Let's go into cyber coffee mode, streamer mode. Okay, let's start with Grease Pencil. In Grease Pencil, there are performance improvements. Yes. How much faster? Well, it's, I don't know, 10, 15 times faster for playback. Yes. Look at this video here. In this video, this is insane. It's a patch by Folk and Jan and, well, the Grease Pencil team. But look at the difference. It went from around 3 frames per second. So you couldn't play back, you couldn't animate and play back, to nearly 50 frames per second. That is crazy. Like, look, on the left is master, so clunky, and then on the right is now this patch. Of course, for the video, for demo reasons, the video. The limit of the video of the scene was up to 60 FPS, I think. Yeah. So you can, that's why you see it like that. But it's amazing. So it means that actually I think this even scales up. So the more you have is gonna still be fine. So yay. That is amazing. And remember, I think last week was, the last time I mentioned that these patches were actually in a collaboration with Spa Studios, which is also great news because it's studios using Grease Pencil for real and finding out all these performance limits that Grease Pencil had that you don't find when you just work by yourself. But now, yes, performance, yay. Okay, what else? Let me start closing some tabs because I keep adding. I never close tabs. Another performance improvement. Well, no, not performance, but actually making it just better. The subdivision modifier in Grease Pencil has it wasn't really matching the regular subdivision in Blender for curves for regular objects. So now it does. Now it matches the regular subdivision code. So yay for consistency. Okay, oh, speaking of consistency, actually I gotta change topics to cycles. Let's talk about cycles. Have you ever run into, well, cycle/workbench? Have you ever run into the issue that you want to, you have the cycle set as the render engine, but you wanted to change, for example, the how hair looks in the scene, right? You have some hair. And if you wanted to change this when cycles was enabled, there was no way. You had to change into Workbench or Eevee, and then you will see the settings for hair. Not anymore. Now in hair, when you have hair, when you have cycles, there is a hair panel with a sub panel for setting strand and strip settings. So you can actually change the quality of the whatever you see in the scene with the Workbench, with here this. So these effects, there you go, beautiful, nice. So you can switch. Render is render, cycles, preview is the Eevee, and there you go. Pablo, is the Grease Pencil patch already available on 3.2? Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Hydrate, thank you. The live stream has magical curing capabilities. Yeah, right? It does. I don't know how long it's gonna last. I think it's just the adrenaline of being live against a bunch of people, but yes. Let's go. Okay. Next improvement. Well, no, actually that's it for cycles. Yes, not a lot in the cycles department yet, although there is, but I'm gonna mention at the end. Let's talk about nodes. There is one change in geometry nodes this week. Well, plenty of changes, but on curves especially, but and performance and fixes and so on and so forth. But this one affects attributes. Have you ever had the issue where when dealing with attributes, for example, that when you're using a boolean to change attributes, well, interpolation wasn't really perfect. So for example, the merge by distance geometry node, the resulting vertices had their boolean attributes set unpredictable. So what is a boolean attribute? Well, like set shade smooth. Shade smooth is an attribute, it's a boolean attribute. And sometimes interpolation is when you run some kind of operation with nodes in the node editor, and sometimes the data has to go from one domain to another, from one like if you have a million faces and then you have 10, well, you have to interpolate all those attributes that you had, like vertex colors and groups and stuff, into a new mesh. So it's cool that now these values are, it's a fix. They're interpolated properly. Okay, let's talk about nodes in general. UI. Let's talk about user interface. So Leon has a bunch of commits this week. One of them, it's a patch that improves the visibility of the node tree in the node tree when you are like far away. For example, when you select a node, have you ever noticed that the wires connected to that node, they are white-ish and they fade into the color of the socket on the whatever other node? Well, that was okay. So for example, here you have this node selected and it will go from white into the other node. But actually, it is way more helpful if the entire wire was white, was highlighted. So now that's the case. If you see, this is without the patch and this is with the patch. So the entire wire is highlighted, and you can see that much better when you are working on a big scene. So this node is selected and the entire length of the wire is highlighted. Super nice, because you can have the node out of the way and you would still, like, the other node out of the way, and you still see which wire was connected, which before it wasn't possible. And another little hint, another trick, is that now when you drag a node, you'll have this gradient from wherever you selected, from the socket to the other socket. So yay for those little things, little tweaks here and there that make life much better. There's many more UI tweaks, but let's continue with nodes. In the image node, there is now an alpha mode selector. So this alpha mode was available in other nodes. I think it was in Compositor, and now it's available in other places. So I think it was also available in the N panel. So it's not new in the sense that you could change it before, but you had to go to the N sidebar in the properties, and now it's available directly inside of the node, which is pretty neat. And speaking of shader nodes, the object info node now has a new output for alpha, which is the alpha component of the object color of that object. So do you know that objects can have their own color? Not only materials, but like an entire object. In the object settings and their viewport display, there is the color that you can choose. You don't see it right away because the visibility, the color overlay is set to material by default, but if you set objects, you see the entire object. And it's pretty handy because sometimes you have a bunch of materials, right? You have like you have a material and then you have another material it would be good if you have nothing selected and you click assign, that it makes a new one, right? Right away. Like makes and assigns it. So you save a click instead of doing like this. But yeah, if you change the color of this, of each one of them, then you have a mesh with a bunch of colors. But you can always go to object to get the entire object, which is pretty handy when you are sculpting, for example, when you are for exporting and importing. I think some items use that setting as well. So beautiful. Thanks for the messages in the chat. Okay, what else? Oh yeah, by the way, actually all of this was to show you that there is an alpha value here in this, and now you can use it in the shading section under object info, and then alpha is it's a value. Let's continue. The speaking of nodes, curves, yes. The mesh to curve node is now much faster. How much faster? Well, in the test that Hans did with 2 million points on a curve, the approximate was 10 times faster than 3.1. This is against Blender 3.1. So all that I'm showing today is for 3.2, so alpha. So what you get in the Buildbot alpha. 10 times faster, that's insane. It's by using the new data block. So we can expect more of these improvements in the future, I assume, because as more nodes are moved into the new data block. At least so far, every time anything was moved into the new data block, new curve data block has been faster, such as the realize instances node. Not a lot faster. Actually, it doesn't even give numbers here in the commit, but there could be significant improvements in some cases. So you should find, and I guess this will go for other nodes that get moved into the new data block, that there will just be faster in general as more nodes are moved into the new data block. Is that beta version? No, exactly. I don't know if you you left the question right before I mentioned, but everything I'm mentioning today is in 3.2 alpha. Remember, 3.1 was beta since many weeks ago, so months, I would say, even. So yeah, there's nothing new in 3.1 besides that it's out. All right, time to move into performance. Oh, this one is great for animators and riggers as well, because if you use Py drivers, you may know already the frustration that things get slow pretty quickly because of the nature of Python in general, and apparently there were some depth graph updates, like the core of Blender, that were not really needed, and they are now optimized, so it's now faster. How much? Around 15%, sorry, 15% faster on animation playback. So spacebar, 24 FPS everywhere, hopefully. 15% faster. That's quite an upgrade. Okay, let's switch topics, and let's go with the clickbait title. No, kidding. It's not a clickbait title. It's an actual improvement in the UV editor, and it's a core improvement. It's not just the one tool, but it's a whole new selection mode in the UV editor, which is edge selection support. This has been requested for ages. There is a bug report that now is closed because of this from 2011. So 12 years, actually March 29. So it's about to become 12 years old report. It was even when Ton was answering bug reports and stuff from back in the days. It's just super fun to see this. And then Brack saying it's a to-do item, Yeah, there's no quick fix. It's a to-do item. 11 years later, it's now fixed thanks to Siddhartha and part of this Google Summit of Code project from last year. And it's super cool, super cool. Let's look at the difference. We have some time today. And I am with a bit of energy, so let's abuse that. Let's go into, okay, let's say I have, this is 3.2, and let's open 3.1. So you might remember that in 3.1 the selection was limited to, I mean, you could select edges, but it would select vertices as well, and that it was really limited because for example, here, say I want to select these vertices around, right? Well, you see, I border select and it selects everything in between. So annoying. So if I want to select the outline, I can't. There's no way until now. So UV editing, go into select here, and then you can, as you see, select everything, and it just works. Isn't it great? You can just do, and it works already with some tools. You can do like rip selection, already works. Loop selection also works. There is a few to-dos for, I think it's for shortest path, but yeah, like selecting now works. It's crazy, right? You couldn't select, for example, this and this edges, and now you can. Boom, boom. Yay. So basic. I know it's really basic, but these kind of improvements are amazing, especially coming from contributor from the community, you know, that now is so involved with the code that hopefully can do more of this stuff, and hopefully together with the development fund we could be covered that work, because the UV editor needs love, really needs a lot of love. In the grants page there is a list of people that are already getting a grant by the development fund, and the latest addition was Yiming Wu with 4 months to work on grease pencil and line art stuff. So pretty exciting. All right, that's it with again, all the links are in the description if you want to see what has been what is actually supported now as part of this commit. I think there is a mention in the patch itself about the tools that are go give it some love. Look at the little amount of tokens for such a massive improvement. Yeah, select split operator has it, select pin has it, invert selection, that's another one that now should work, right? If I invert the selection, so cool, it works, it just works. Awesome. Okay, cool. Let's continue with some, let's talk about the user interface. Yeah, oh my gosh, the update of the week, to me, another annoyance that at least I had it forever. Snapping. Have you ever noticed how if you snap, well, I think I have 3.1 still here. Yes, 3.1. Look at that, 3.1. So, ever notice how in the node editor, if you want to have snap for the nodes, which is super handy, it also snaps the object. So annoying. Well, not anymore. This is huge. I know, again, another one of those basic things, but look, I enable snap and it doesn't enable it in the viewport. It's separate, like a grown-up. Look at that, like a professional industry standard. Oh my god, this has been around since day one, since the node editor was added in 2005. That's, if you are using Blender for a few months or years even, you can understand the frustration. 2005, we're in 2022. Okay, phew, let's move on. This is amazing. I forgot where the commit. I didn't save the commit, but this was done by Germano Cavalcante. Thank you, Germano. You are making this world a better place. All right. You know who else is making the world a better place? Azim Bande Ali, by making drag and drop, bringing drag and drop to the masses in the shape of materials into... Have you ever tried to drag and drop materials into the list of materials? It just makes sense. And now it makes even more sense because it actually works. It drops it even in the socket that you hover to. So, okay, which Blender is this? This is 3.1. Go away, 3.1. I don't like you anymore. 3.2, there you go. This is where it's at, with edge selection and proper snapping. Well, if I go into the which one was the shortcut for the asset browser? Shift F1. Shift F1 once gives you the file browser. Shift F1 again gives you it toggles between the asset browser. So in the asset browser, if I make my material an asset, so mark as asset, then I could add it into, I could drag and drop it here. Oh no, I don't have, wait, I don't have the socket. Yes, I need to have the socket first. Can I make a new socket? With shift, with a, okay, maybe that could be a nice extra. Or maybe it's, okay, maybe it's not so simple, but it is now that you just drag and drop and it will apply it on socket slot 1, 2, 3. Maybe you could also highlight it. I guess that's also a pain in the arm to make because you need to highlight another button while one context is active, but it will be cool if the slot will highlight and then just drops there. So cool. And maybe could even have this all the same material, right? Yes. Maybe you could even have like a, if you do shift or control or alt, you know, to like create a new slot or make a new material. So you add it and then it makes a copy of it. So many little things to play with. So thank you, Azam, for making this. And I think I've been, let's stock your profile. Yes, I think this is your largest patch. So congrats, and congrats on having made something that so many people are going to use. So yay for that, and more UI improvements. The outliner now shows the proper icon for the proper subtype, curve subtype. So you know everything is curves. If you do fonts like text or NURBS or curves, everything inside is just a curve. The same with hair. Hair will be just curves. So the outliner used to show only the curve icon. Now it shows the proper subtype, which makes sense, and it's super nice, and it was done by Ethan. So thank you, Ethan. And another change regarding icons in the outliner is that, whoop, I think I crashed the planet. Yes. No worries, no worries. We'll be back in no time. I hope everything is still okay. Yes. Okay, and the chat has to be somewhere. No, I'm gonna bring the chat again. I think I have to. I haven't restarted the computer in 48 days. I should now. It's because I was involved with the. Actually, since I came back from holidays, that's a good way of counting how many days since the release, and I didn't want to break stuff, but I think I should. Let me bring the chat again so I can see you all chatting. There you go. Windows problem. No, I'm actually on Linux. It's not a computer problem. It's just probably Chrome that is a bit drunk because I had the computer open for so long. It's not everything a operating systems faults usually. Okay, what else? Drag and drop. We have some drag and dropping. Oh yeah, the outliner. Also, I'm dragging the windows around, and that's not often what window managers like. Speaking of icons in the outliner, when using overrides, the objects, you couldn't tell they were objects because they are in the object category, but now they have the actual object type attached to them. So if it's a mesh, it's going to show a mesh icon, and so on and so forth. Because while you are overriding, yes, technically you are overriding the object, but it's much more useful to see the object type rather than just the icon, the override icon. Another improvement. Oh my gosh, another one by Julian. Julian Eisel made this life-changing improvement for user experience when selecting anything in the asset browser, in the file editor, basically. So have you ever noticed how, look at them, the party of icons that are here? Because yes, have you ever noticed now how you could box select by clicking in the area between the thumbnail and everything else and the name? It was so annoying. Now not anymore. Now it's actually whatever you select, it will work. There you go. Drag and drop for the win. No more having to, especially if you had a very thin image, it would just be terrible, because it would be you have to either click there, or what I used to do is just click on the name and drag and drop. But now I'm glad to see that it actually works in anywhere. So okay, let's close some windows just to make my computer's life easier. This is amazing, but you know what else? So many changes in this show that are good for you if you have like a OCD. Well, ever notice how even in 3.1, I would say, the labels in the headers were like a kilometer away from their option? Like here you see orientation, and then there was like this gap in between. Well, that has been fixed by Evgeny. Now, this is just a test image, but it shows how this gap is no longer there. So, yay for more room. There will be more room in the headers now. This has been fixed. So, yay for that. What else? Oh, we're in the user interface. So a bunch of glitches have been fixed. This one was fixed by Leon, and it makes the multi-socket selector not suck, as in visually. Like, this is how it used to be. So the line was very thin compared to the other sockets, and it also had like a round line inside. So weird. And not anymore. Now actually this has been fixed, and it's all same width, and it goes all around it. So yay for consistency and little tweaks here and there. Okay, one change in the for people on Windows that use OneDrive. If for some reason the thumbnails are not found, well, no, if the OneDrive files are offline, it will show the existing thumbnails. So it's not going to look empty by default if the drive is offline, which is pretty neat. But you know what else is pretty neat? When things that are everywhere in Blender, such as search, get improved. The latest improvement to search is massive because it now takes into account the order of the words. What does it mean? Well, it could happen that if you write exactly mesh, like exactly an operator that has the same words, but it's just different orders, like curve to mesh or mesh to curve, it would just be sorted alphabetically, or, well, the heat would be the same, like the weight of each result will be the same because they match the words, but now they also need to match the order. So this is now fixed. This is how it used to be in the past, and now mesh to curve will show first because the order of the words matches. So yay for that. Super, super nice. Let's give it a heart. So cool. So cool. Okay. Hydrate. Segways. Yeah. I try to, and I think I'm getting better at it. After 5 years streaming, I think I'm getting a bit better. Okay. Let's change topic. Let's go into the Potpourri section because we have so many little areas to touch now. The video editor, you know, you can create, if you have multiple scenes, you can add scenes here. And this is great. It's fantastic. You can do like storyboarding with this. However, in 3.1 and or in Masters until a few days ago, the selector here for scene didn't let you make new scene. So you have to go here, make a new scene, go back and make a new one. So now you can directly from here just click and create a new scene, and it will just make it. So very quickly you can just make a new scene, go here, make a new scene. And this actually is together with some stuff that it was added by Antonio from the Grease Pencil team, which you can imagine already more or less where this is going. It's towards storyboarding, story art. So pretty neat what these guys are working on. The improvement, actually, I think wouldn't also make sense to just have a operator here under scene, an operator to create a new scene directly from here. Like, because now you have to have always one scene. So if I only have one scene, I can't, well, if I start again, if I don't have other scenes, it just says no items available. What can I just create a new scene? I think that will be the other step. I think it would just be a matter of running this operator, right? With the, from here. I think it would make sense. Okay. Next change. The next change is regarding, well, the event system. I was wondering how could I present all the changes in the event system, because there are so many, but a lot of that is just, well, just it's a refactor. There are some changes for the user though. For example, the drag events no longer default to drag start location. What does it mean? Well, it means that sometimes there could be like a little jump when you will start, you know, for example, you're using a pen, or you click on a gizmo. So if you add a gizmo here, when you click and drag, there is a offset, like you have to drag after a few pixels. You have to, it's set in the user preferences, but you have to define it, because it could be that maybe you don't want it to be so sensitive, right? If you click on something, maybe you want to select it, not drag it. So there is this threshold that you click and drag after a certain amount of pixels, it will do something. It will perform the action, for example, moving. Well, the problem was that it could jump. It could happen that it would jump, and I think there was another bug report here where it's seen, where the problem is seen. And if you run into this, like, look now, it will click here and then start moving, and then bam, it will jump. That has been fixed. So yay for smoothness. Along with a whole other bunch of changes in the event system. Another one that was an improvement is that now you can, while you're activating the gizmo, or like click and dragging, in that threshold you can also press other keys. So for example, if you wanted to select and delete something and you were using the pen, could be that while you're clicking and if you drag and hit X to delete, it would constrain the movement to the X-axis. And that's not what you want, because you were still under that threshold. You know what I mean? You will have to be very like click, release, and then press X if you want to delete. Not anymore. Now you can click and, well, you can press other keys as you are tweaking something. So yay for that. You're gonna notice that it just works better in general. Curves. You know how, well, actually I was demoing it before, that if you have a bunch of materials, you have a new material here and a material here, when you click it, Blender automatically selects the active material in that face. Well, this has been ported to curves. It wasn't the case. If you had because curves, you know, can have their own materials, you know, and here, for example, if you have a curve here and a curve here, they can have different materials. So if I make a new one, there you go. Now, as I select, they swap, they change, they becomes active. It wasn't the case. Yeah, you would think I would have trusted my favorite chocolate by saying that it already existed, but no, it didn't exist. So yay for that. Thank you, Redmser. Is that your name? Speaking of curves, on the NURBS, actually, NURBS had been improved by Laurines. Yes, this patch enables all 8 combinations of NURB modes: cyclic, Bezier, and endpoint. So it also removes the restriction of Bezier NURBS order. So if you are using NURBS, they are back in shape of... Oh, in the Spanish Simpsons, I know the quote, but in English, is back in POG form. That's how they say it. In POG form. Okay, yeah. So NURBS are back in POG form. Okay. Did you also grow up watching Simpsons? Oh my gosh. A big one and a small one. A small one in terms of code is one line of code, but it will make a huge difference for people using going through the nightmare of using FBX, or also if you're using BVH importing. So it would happen that when you import an FBX, the actions will not be grouped by name, by that's, what is this? It's the chat. I think it was writing. Okay, the next improvement, it's in FBX. You know what is it? Why is it a small change? Because it's just a one line of code, but I think here this shows, this bug report shows it all. In the past, this is how it would look: root, and then everything inside. How would you know that it's a separate object, a different bone? There was no way. There was, well, it would say it here, and if it matches, it would just say it because it's duplicated, but not anymore. Now it will properly show this, as every group, every bone name will be like the group of where those curves will appear. Sorry, getting distracted with some chat, getting Telegram bombed. No, let's not use that word. The what else? FBA, oh yeah, BVH is also has that support. BVH, the F curves are currently shown as a very long list in the dope sheet. Not anymore. Now it shows properly, and the one-liner, like look at this, is the FBX importer. It's literally one line, just changing the item for BL object. So it's more like a bug than a bug fix. But if you play around with Python and look at the code, you can do these kind of fixes and make everybody's life better, like Niels has done here. So next, speaking of importers and importers, the C++ OBJ, so the new OBJ exporter that was shipping in Blender 3.1, it's now in 3.2, but better because it applies the modifiers of the objects, which was an option that was missing. And also it has presets. The presets were missing in the 3.1 release. So I'm not sure if this will make it. I think it's only in master, but I don't know how big of a change it is, but it sounds like it's actually not that big of a change. I wonder if we could, like, this could be ported into 3.1.1 eventually if it happens, because it's kind of a big deal. I've seen people reporting that they use presets a lot because they export different kinds of objects in high res, low res, with modifiers, without, and so on. Next. Oh, this is a fix. I like to mention fixes that are worth mentioning. Have you ever noticed how in 3.1, this should be in 3. Will this be in 3.1? Well, drivers, basically. The driver editor didn't have, which version do I have here? 3.2. So if I go here in the, there you go. If I am the graph editor, in the driver editor, drivers, I now see the vertical values, which I think they were gone from 3.1.1. Let me quickly check, because that way I will remember if oh no, you see, this is the driver editor, doesn't have vertical indicators. Okay, this is a bug fix. This should be backported, and it's not mentioned here, but I'm gonna leave this tab open so I can mention it later, because it's a big one. No indicators. Oh, this is for these Python developers, or yeah, people that make add-ons. The annotations now have handlers. If you're familiar with the handlers, they're, for example, when you load a file, when you render something, there is a handler for before you render and after the render. For example, if you want to run an operation before or after. Well, now the same is for the annotations. So again, I think this is in preparation for some grease pencil storyboard magic using annotations maybe. It's cool that there is these handlers, because it expands what people can do with Python. Okay, next. Well, I think I'm done with the actual changes. Now let's have a bit of fun. This one is, remember, for the last few weeks I've been explaining and showing that the hair curves now have a new sculpt mode. Again, disclaimer, this is all prototype level, as in super under development. It's not how it will be. It's just prototypes for developers to work on this further and make more tools more easily. For example, there are test tools, and also you need to have it enabled, I think, in interface, developer extras, and then experimental, and then new curves type. So yes, there are many layers that you have to enable to get this, but it's super exciting to see that there is already combing, there is a snake hook for hair, and there is two options where you can grow. Oh, I need to specify an object. I think in the properties here, the surface, I need to specify the surface object, which is gonna be my cube, and then you can grow stuff. You can grow hair, and you can shrink it if you want, and I cannot unshrink, like make it longer with like an operator. No, not yet, but it's super exciting. Hair here in Blender, and it's in view mode. Okay, again, this is all prototype. It's not how it's going to be in the final shape, but it's all pretty exciting because it's happening. Finally, new hair combing tools in Blender will come out of the 90s. Okay, and last but not least, the moment 3.1 came out, the same day, which includes support for Apple Metal in GPU for cycles, the same day, the Apple team, Jason and Michael, have contributed, well, and all these people that are also contributed here, but they are the ones that are more interacting with the community, have submitted the first patch, very first initial steps of completely replacing GPU module in with Metal, which means the user interface and Eevee in Metal. Meevee. Would that be, what is the Metal? What is the rock evolution of Eevee? Okay. That's it. They should code name it internally. No, I think that would be too much. Okay, anyway, I'm done with everything that is new this week, and I think I'm reached 1 hour, but let's go into Blender.Today. Let's see if there is anything, and if there is anything, I will answer how many questions? I will say 10. Okay, let's do 14. Will Blender get any new tools for modeling? Well, if you consider procedural modeling, then yes, there is plenty of them coming. Hi Pablo, amazing work for the Blender devs. Yes, I'm a pipeline TD working in one of the biggest companies out there. And Blender dropping the VFX platform is a massive problem to make Blender part of the VFX industry. As everyone knows, adopting a new software takes time, and the time that Blender was following the VFX platform was so short, 2 years. What do you think of this? Do you think this is something to revisit? Supporting a new Python version and dependencies for Blender only is a big issue, and the main reason why Blender might be removed from studios that begin to implement is that have a decent size pipeline. Well, mixed feelings. In one way, I think it's important. I think the fact that Blender stopped supporting it, it's kind of, it's not great. But if you read about the implications that had maintaining old versions of Python, like if you look at the VFX platform, it's so behind. Like, again, this is all my own personal opinion, so hashtag opinion here. But it's behind in many levels, and that is affecting everyone in the industry, everyone outside of the industry too. Everybody, the mass majority of people that use Blender are not really part of the VFX industry, right? They are working for all the other industries basically, and even just hobbies, for example. Well, everybody else is behind because of the VFX platform. And one of the biggest companies, VFX companies out there, any of big companies out there, can simply, like, it really doesn't take, it's not rocket science to maintain another, to just ship Blender static with static libraries, with its own Python version, or just, because right now the developers are the ones doing the work to maintain certain settings working with 3.9 and 3.8 or Python 3 or 3.10, or if there was a fix in 3.10 that was fixing something in 3.9 that you have to do workaround. So in the end, the users are the ones that are being affected, and the people, especially big VFX studios, can they have the budget to maybe work around that and work with Blender in order to provide compatibility with whatever they need. So it's not that Blender should work for them, it's that they should give their contributions into Blender. So that it's all that, let's get Blender into Hollywood, but no, it's the other way around. We shouldn't try to get Blender into Hollywood. We should try to get Hollywood in Blender. People from Hollywood with their experience into contributing to Blender, the same way that Apple is contributing with their own patches, and the same way we have Pixar libraries that are working there, AMD, Intel, everybody. So yes, it's a pity because it's a mismatch. What I would love to see though is that if somehow maybe the LTS versions could align somehow to the, well, not this year already, because 3.10, I think this year's VFX platform is already behind. Like, I think it's for this year is only 3.9, if I remember. Like, let's see. This is 2022. Yeah, 2022. So Python 3.9. Yes, so it's already behind. But if in 2023 they move to 3.10, maybe Blender could stay with 3.10 until the LTS version of next year, 2023. Maybe that's something that could be discussed, because that way it will give support, right? The LTS versions are supported for 2 years. So maybe that's a good compromise between the two. What do you think? Hi Pablo, I wanted to ask why the subdivision modifier and face subdivide use different algorithms. When you try to divide the triangle, you will get different results. Don't you think it's worth using one algorithm for consistency? I am not fan. Well, the subdivision modifier is using a library called OpenSubdiv, so it's gonna be different from the operator itself. But yeah, I think it should be consistent. However, I think the subdivide should change to work with the OpenSubdiv. Although I don't know how it works internally. Is it Catmull Clark still? Next, hi, thanks a lot for the weekly presentation. Would like to know if you have any in-house info about when collection data blocks will be supported by the asset browser, please. Not any in-house info, but I think the main issue was to deal with well, how thumbnails were created and also linked collections, like nested linked collections. But I think there is a patch somewhere going around, so please have a look. Like everything, there is no such a thing as in-house. The house is open. It's like Blender's house has the door open for everybody to go sneaking and see how things are developing. Hey Pablo, good work by the Blender team. Is there a work of a feature, or is there any work on a feature to place and bake textures, marital as sticker in 3D space? Import an image as plane, place and shrink wrap the image on the object, use a node or an option to include the image to main object texture. Well, like projections, you mean? You could projection textures, like UV project, the UV project modifier. Not the baking part, but at least the projecting. Hansal says, hi Pablo, I have 3 questions. First, Blender soon will be able to drive RGB of grease pencil material separately, and also place shading nodes for grease pencil. Second, is Blender soon will be able to, I don't know about the driving and shading nodes, not soon, unfortunately, as far as I know. Second, Qt, is possible to have, no, second question, is it possible to have, I was mistaken with the Qt library. Is it possible to have write text directly as grease pencil objects? No, you can't write objects as, no, but you could convert. Well, technically, no, you can't. No, the one thing you can do is with geometry nodes, you can type text using the string node and convert it to curves, and then the curve convert it to grease pencil, or use if you have any kinds of text, right, and you use a grease pencil like a collection line art, does it work? If this had some, I shouldn't be doing this because I am, well, I guess you could somehow do convert automatically into grease pencil if you use this, right? If you use line art modifier and then you somehow limit it to the one collection where you have the text. So if you have the text here and then in line art you make it choose this text, and then you have somehow, I mean, in a way you are having grease pencil text, right? Okay, next. Third question, is it possible to or more convenient to influence multiple layers or materials and vertex groups in modifiers by order? Multiple layers or materials and vertex groups in modifiers by... I'm sorry, I don't understand. Multiple layers of what? Or materials and vertex groups. I'm sorry, I don't understand the context. Okay. Next. Wait. Hey, another point. Just 4 questions in one. Come on. One other point to mention is we need to have a built-in modifier, a switcher, or a panel to change from where the build begin to build a layer. Feature request. Right-click select. Right here. Hello, Pablo. Greetings from Austria. I got super annoyed while trying to build an asset library. I have downloaded tons of free assets where I was going to go through and mark the materials and some useful objects as asset. The problem is every single blend file was set up differently and it took me more time to change the UI than the other tasks at hand. Is there a way to pin a workspace override the UI baked into a blend file? To pin a workspace override, basically make it persistent like any other program? Yes, like if you want to make it persistent, just when you load a file, you go to file. Like for example, say I have here the asset browser. If you go to file, open, and then you open a file, and here in the settings you disable load UI, it will open this file but keep the UI. And I think you can make this a user preference even in the interface, and then, or no, save and load. Yes, there you go, load UI, which should say user interface. Come on, this name, we have plenty of room for the user interface. But yes, load UI, this is your best friend. Disable that, save your settings, and from now on, every time you open a file, it's gonna open with the same layout. Hello, do you know when volumetric baking will get some love? For example, noise options supposed to work as exhibitions. No, volumetric baking, actually, no idea. Hi Pablo, thanks for another episode of Blender.Today Live, BTD. I've been searching for that cool point cloud sand feature in 3.1, but I can't find it for the life of me. Well, the feature is that Cycles now supports rendering point clouds, so that's all. That Cycles renders natively. So if you open, like, there's not many changes for the user, but yeah, it just shows that. Okay, there is so many questions. I think I'm way over time. Let's do 3 more. Hello, Paulo. Do you know when we will be able to assign attributes to the mesh the way we do with vertex groups? There is already an attribute panel similar to vertex group, but no way to actually assign them. No, those attributes you assign, that list of attributes, you assign them via geometry nodes or built by the system. Second question, how was the release for you last week with 3.1? I was wondering when will be the next showcase show reel. Will be very cool as an ad. Yeah, the thing is with the show reel, it's really hard to get cool artwork. Like it's hard to get artwork that shows the stuff properly. Then you have to ask permission, of course, always. I had the issue with I had some artwork here and I didn't ask and it was a artwork by an artist who I asked permission. She gave me permission. However, that artwork was based off an illustration of another artist, which I didn't ask for permission, my mistake, and I had to remove it from here. And it's a pity because I know there is great artwork out there, but yeah, it has to be organized. It just takes so much time. Besides building this, it takes so much time and effort to manage, and yeah. Maybe for the next release, I think 3.2 is gonna have some big changes, so I think we're gonna do it for that one. For me, the release week was great. Thursday and Friday I was dead. Basically, I was just couldn't even think much. It was doing refactors on Blender.org. Okay, the last one, because I'm already super tired and noticing my battery going down. Sila says, great work on the release notes. We need to make release notes for everything notes. I hope the contract can be extended for Joe to work more on the sculpt mode, but either way, I'm happy for the work. I also hope. To the question, Blender is currently in a massive transform with texturing overhaul, geonodes and such. Is there an active search for a UI developer? Yes. There is a search, but no one has showed up. Or at least make something that is interesting enough. One more. Is the Eevee rewrite still on track for 2.2? Not sure. I have to get back to you on that. But it's definitely for this year. 3.2, 3.3. The thing is that it might not come all at once. It might come in parts. Have a great day. Not sure why am I even excited to hear the current year's Google Sound project. Blender just gets me. Well, it is exciting, right? To me, it's my favorite 3D software that it gets updated every time. So often, every week. Okay, cool. Time to call it. I'm already. Gee, look, it was daylight when I started. Oh no, it's so dark. Well, let's cut it short while we can. Thanks everyone for staying until the end of the show. I'm sorry for the questions that I didn't get to answer. There were just so many things to cover today in the actual features plus the questions, so I'm sorry about that. And also you can tell my voice is, and it's already 1 hour 10. The problem is when I make these long videos is that people then see them as too long and they don't click on them. But hey, I hope you find your way. I mean, very interesting. If you made it till the end of the show now and you are watching this on YouTube, leave a comment on this YouTube video. When or how do you watch Blender.Today? I read all comments, by the way. Sometimes I don't get to reply because the app is not the most efficient way, because I will reply with Blender and I don't want to reply. I want to reply with my own, so I don't mix the brand. And anyway, but I read them all. So please leave your comment and tell me how do you watch Blender.Today, and what time do you do the day after, sometime during the week while you work, all in one go in just little parts. I think it will be fun to read. Okay, time to make it. Yeah, it's over. Let's call it a day, and I will see you. If you speak Spanish, I'm gonna stream in Spanish on Blender hoy right after this in half an hour ish, so go there and I'm gonna talk about the same things in Espanol. That is all for this week. I'm going to leave you with the epic sound, which you might need to watch your ear holes, because in 5 4 3 2 1 was it that loud? Maybe it wasn't too bad. Okay, thanks everyone. Have a great week. See you next week, same place, same time, for another Blender.Today live. Bye.